So now we go to the third and last video to launch you on the Habitable Planet Carbon Cycle Lab. When we last met here in this video, you were just finishing up step 1 and 2 of the carbon cycle lesson, and there are some questions at the end that you're looking at. A couple of things might puzzle you. For example, this question here, question number 1, what about the relationship between the increase in fossil fuel consumption? Where is that? Well, that's right here. That's 1.5% per year. You fixed it. So it's a constant increase, 1.5% per year. So what they're really asking is, does the amount of carbon that accumulates in the terrestrial plant reservoir or sink, is that also linear? Does it go up at a steady rate, or does it look different? So that's what that question is about. And then they're asking you what impact could 20 years at this level of consumption have on the flora, and that you can work on yourself. And then this question that talks about the smokestack, well, they're talking about the number that appears here in the smokestack. And I think that mostly answers the questions that you have posed, some of you have posed to me. And so it's time to go on to the next lesson. There are a couple of things that are slightly different. So you might go over here to this panel and choose the second lesson, which is called Curb Emissions. And you want to go to take a look at this. This is Curb Emissions Step 1. And in this case, they're asking you to change, in Step 1 and Step 2, you're changing the emissions. Okay, last time they were constant at 1.5. Now you're going to change them. So to run the simulator, go up here and make sure you change the lesson. So go to Curb Emissions Lesson. Gives you a slightly different view. And then they're going to ask you to run this model as if there were no fossil fuel emissions. So as if all the gas and oil and coal just disappeared in 2000, what would happen after that? And the way you do that is by pressing none. Here you see this goes to minus 100%, so that there is none, there's zero emissions. And then run the model again and put the data in your table and answer these questions. Then you want to go to Step 2. Let's take a look at Step 2. And here you are in Step 2. And if you look at the questions in Step 2, in Step 2 you're supposed to move the fossil fuel usage around a couple of different ways. So you just move this green button and it will recalculate the usage, and you can see how many parts per million that corresponds to over here, or in the graph as you generate it. And they're also going to ask you to play around with the net deforestation rate. You can move that up and down also. You have to think really hard what this means, because it's sort of a negative, you're increasing a negative. So if you increase, if you go to plus 4 gigatons, that means you're cutting down trees. So the more trees you cut down, the more carbon emissions there are. Whereas if you reduce the amount of deforestation, it shows up as a negative number. That means you're letting the trees stand. And so that reduces the number of gigatons that go into the atmosphere. The only other thing that I would point out to you is how helpful in understanding what you've just done this for your consideration section is. So please do go take a look at the for your consideration section and think about the questions that they ask. Make sure you understand the purpose of each section of the lab. So that's all in this video broadcast. If you have questions, please send me emails.